Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for this roundtable session. We'll do some intros and then we'll crack on talking about what's quality and who cares about it. So I'm Steve Watson, I'm currently Head of Quality Engineering at Octopus Labs. I've been there about 18 months, been in testing for about 30 years, but I won't go through all the history because we only have the 1 hour this evening. But needless to say, I've been around a number of different companies and environments. And I'm looking forward to sharing experiences with a panel that we have this evening. So can I ask you to introduce yourselves? If we go around in alphabetical order, Marie, I think you're the first one.
Hi, so my name is Marie Drake. I currently work as a principal test automation engineer at NIS UK. In terms of my testing experience, I have about 7 years experience, and most recently I joined NIS as a permanent member of staff. Been at NIS for about a year now, and within product platforms, we're currently trying to roll out a design system. So this is the first product that NIS is currently trying to roll out to different title teams. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about what other people's view on quality, to see if I can apply more learnings in back at NIS. Yeah. Yep, that's it from me.
Thanks, Marie. Nicola, do you want to go next?
Hi everybody, my name is Nicola Martin. I'm currently Head of Quality for a company, an AI and data science company called Adaga. I've been working in testing all different industries for about 20 years. I think it's 20 years this year actually. So yeah, I've got a lot of experience, can share a lot of stories and advice, and I try to do that by mentoring as well as working with BCS special interest group in testing as well, and I do some other volunteering stuff around testing as well. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Nicola. Oana?
Okay.
Hi everyone, so my name is Juan Araujo and I'm currently a QA lead at Fit, which is a fitness company. Been there for about 9 months now. It's the first time I'm doing a QA lead role, so it's been very interesting. Prior to that, I've been leading an automation QA team, but I had a QA lead that I was reporting into. Now I'm doing that job, which is definitely challenging, and I've learned a lot. Prior to that, yeah, about 10 years I've been in QA, doing various jobs. As I started with web automation QA, then switched to mobile, then a mix of them, and yeah, now doing a bit of everything.
Thank you. Welcome to the group. Rafaela?
Yeah, I'll keep it short as well. But I'm Rafaela, and I have just joined EE again as a QA consultant. I used to work for them before, but I just joined like 1 week. So first week, I cannot say too much about the project, but basically I have 12 years experience of, on QA area now. I have I have this blog that I post quite often now, like every week. And I think I created in 2011, so quite a long time ago. And I try to update every week, but sometimes it's quite hard, especially now doing like this coronavirus. You need to try to keep a bit like far from the screen sometimes. So yeah, but yeah, I have been doing like a lot of different things, not only QA, so DevOps as well. And I have done like a bit of developer work as well. So yeah, I'm basically like doing a lot of things. So yeah, I think pretty much that. I can say that we have this full stack developer title. I think I can consider myself as a full stack QA as well. I have done like mobile, API, all kind of platforms already. So yeah, pretty much that, I think.
Thank you. Full stack QA, that sounds like a topic for another time. That sounds interesting. Yeah. Seema, hello.
Hello. I'm currently working at OpenSignal as the QA engineering manager. OpenSignal provide independent insights on mobile network connectivity globally. And this is based on real user experience measurements and analytical insights. So there's a lot of big data processing, mobile network, both iOS and Android, as well as analytics that's on dashboards. I have been in software testing for about 14 years now, working in healthcare, social care, retail, finance, and now in telecommunications. So it's just a wide variety. From people management, mobile automation, and website automation, now doing performance testing as well.
Thank you. Last but by no means least, Sufyan.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Sufyan Farooqi. I'm a QA lead at a prop tech startup called Housey. So Housey is looking at solving the problem around the letting market and is on a mission to kind of make renting a property as easy as booking a hotel room. I've been in QA for over 15 years. And over these 15 years, it's been really interesting to see kind of the evolution of QA over that span of time. I mean, we started with waterfall and traditional kind of QA methodologies. And then a few years later, we moved to Agile. And now we're moving into this new Agile/DevOps world. And it's also been really interesting to see QA roles evolve as well. So we started with the traditional and controversial now manual tester. And then we have now automation engineers and automation testers. And now we have this fairly new, I think, role of SDETs. And now I think the quality assurance industry is kind of shifting again, and QA is becoming more of a coaching type role as well. So it's interesting to see how QA has evolved over the years. And I'm really looking forward to discussing about quality this evening.
Thank you. Okay, let's crack on. And I'll just do a quick intro as to why did I pick the topic. So I think back end of last year, I was planning for a conference talk that I ended up doing last week, actually called for the guys. I was supposed to deliver it in March. So of course I did some prep early, and I thought, well, what is quality? What does it mean to people? So I did a talk about that and thinking about, well, how do we test something if we don't know what quality actually is? So I did a load of research, and I was due to deliver it, and I saw something that Billy had shared, and I sent a message on LinkedIn, I think, saying, oh, that would be really good to do a talk on quality. And before I know it, here I am. It was a quick turnaround in about 3 weeks. But I'm interested in kind of having a chat rather than just presenting, because you don't get a lot of ideas back. So I'm going to start off with quite a broad question for each of you. I'm not going to pick a particular person, just whoever wants to go for it first, go for it. But what's your idea of what quality is?
I'll jump in on that. So I believe, I mean, specifically around like my role in QA, I think it's my job to kind of help make people's lives easier. So that can be, for example, helping a developer uncover risks that need to be addressed, finding issues in software before the customer does, so that the customer can use the software in the most productive way and have a great experience. And I think at the end of the day, quality for me, and I've been doing some reflection on this over the last few months, and if not years. I think for me, it's about creating harmony that works. And when I say harmony, you can look at that as using an analogy. When you walk into a building and you know it's right and you feel at peace when you're in that space, that's what you want to feel when you're experiencing good quality. It's also what Dan Ashby refers to as goodness. So to me, that's what I think quality is.
Yep. I think for me, it's all about perception. So it's all relative to other people, and what quality means to me doesn't mean that, other people will share the same view. And I guess just in terms of like analogies, like day-to-day examples. So if I go do online shopping, for example, and the clothes that I buy looks really good on pictures, so I I will suddenly have that perceived thought that, oh yeah, this looks like a high quality product. But then, the moment I try the clothes on and it doesn't fit, then that's where my thought will be, oh, okay, this isn't, like a good quality product after all. But then other people might not share the same experience. So that's why I think, with software quality, it's quite hard to measure what quality is, because different users use it on different way. So I think it's important to have like a set of guidelines, I guess, just so that at least we know that we're all heading into the right direction, that what we're providing at the end of the day matches not one but at least most of the needs of the different customer.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, I give like an example. I used to have iPhone and everybody said like, yeah, iPhone, Apple, they are really good. And I just realized that, my phone was like going like, it was slowing down. And also I start to see like some crashes. In the beginning it was not like that, but now I can see like the difference. So I think it is the perception, because yeah, some people like they still like buy Apple, they still buy iPhones, and they still think that is really good. But I had this experience myself and I just switched, so now I have Android and I'm really happy with that. But yeah, I think it's a bit of like perception and experience and what you have gone through. But I also think it's not only about the product, but the whole flow. So also the delivery and the speed of delivery and everything. So I think I think it's a bit of a lot of things together, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what was said so far. And I can relate to, I've been working in products that weren't live for the users. So at that point, the quality meant what the team thought that a good product is, which meant, I don't know, 100 test cases, it has to do this, it has to do that. We need to deliver once every month. These are the persons in the team that need to do QA. So it covers all the bases. And then now at Fit, it's an extremely agile company. It's very new and we deliver every week. So we moved from something that wasn't live with something that is live. Like during the pandemic, it was absolutely insane. So for us, it switched to we were always very much user focused. So we really believe that what the users say is what defines the quality of our product. Of course, we have a few guidelines inside our teams to say, in order to release to the users, this is what should happen, this is how it should behave. But then when it comes to bugs per se, or the quality itself, what we find might not be nothing compared to what users find. Or if we find a small thing, it might actually turn out like the biggest bug we have because users are unhappy about it. So I think, yeah, there is a side to it on like the team itself, how the team perceives it, who does the quality. Like here, everyone is involved in the quality. Like quality is a thing that people think about when they do things. So as a QA, it's not like checking what they've done is correctly. It's more like splitting up the task to deliver this. But then it's very much like small feedback, small deliveries, quick feedback from the users. And I think that's quite important to define kind of what users say. What users say is quality, that's what's quality.
Do you think it's quite difficult to define what quality is? Like everybody's saying, it means different things to different people, and different, internally it might be different parts of your development team or your product team, and these things might mean different things to them. But I think I think someone's raised the point about during COVID and during the whole lockdown and working remotely and things like that, it's really given us time to, me personally, I would say, time to reflect on what I think it means. And it's definitely, you know, about the whole customer experience. And you know, I've now like changed ways of working to match my new thought processes around it, an updated strategy to match. And I just think that, yes, it's completely about, you know, the type of product that you're trying to produce, or, you know, the type of system that you're working on, and quality is literally everybody's responsibility within the company. And it's about us as QAs making sure that everybody understands that, you know, quality is not just a QA responsibility, it's a company responsibility, and everything that they do may have some, you know, some effect on the quality of the system at the end of the day.
Yeah, I quite agree with what many of you have said. I think quality is quite subjective. It depends on what is the purpose that we want to achieve and who is going to be using it and at what point in time. I think it's very relative to time, because what is good quality today may not be termed as good quality in a few days, weeks, or years' time. For example, 3G, when it first came, might have been the best thing possible for us, but all it did was we could surf the internet, go on websites. It helped. It was the best at that point in time. And when we said we have good quality internet connection, that's what we meant. But a few years down the line, that when 4G comes, and if I say I want to watch videos, that I have a internet connection, that doesn't say it's good quality, because we've evolved from there. So I think over time, customers' expectations evolve, new technologies come, we're growing all the time, and point of views also change. Well, what was good yesterday may not be the same today. And it's continuous improvement, and that is quality. And like Sufyan said, and also Danashpi said about correctness and goodness, correctness, goodness, and usefulness, all three of them go hand in hand. It might be that we have a very good application of a product that is correct, it does what is expected behavior, and it also might be useful to the customer. If it's not solving the customer's problem, it's not good quality for the end user at that point in time. And if it is useful and it is correct, but maybe it's not user friendly, or it doesn't have the good aesthetics, then that also defeats the purpose. So there's all three woven together make up quality, and it changes quite often.
The timing thing you talked about is really interesting. I mean, there's a pretty recent example of that I came across. I don't know if you guys remember, but a few days ago, there was a story in the news about the N95 masks and how those aren't as good as people thought they were. So when you're talking about time there, that reminded me of that example. And then, yeah, the perceived quality is really interesting. And I do think when it comes to software, it is all about perceived quality. But then there's this other side of quality as well, where I think it's interesting to at least mention, if not discuss in depth. But in software, I think it's more about perceived quality. But if you look at industries like manufacturing, where they're producing real products, then it's almost like there's another side to quality, which is like tangible quality. So if you're producing nuts and bolts, or you're producing screwdriver bits, then that's actually physical, real quality. And then you have things like software, where it's not real tangible. And I know somebody gave the example of the phone. I don't know if you're referring to the physical phone, or if we're actually referring to the operating system. But
The system,
yeah, when it comes to the operating system, again, it's not tangible, right? You can't hold or see it. You have to kind of use it and feel it. So I think it's interesting to look at, you know, there's a perceived quality, which is, I think, what we're more involved in, because we're dealing in the soft space with software. But there's also the other side of it, where there's this hard physical product. When you look at a manufacturing plant making cars, then you're actually looking at a physical product. So two distinctions that I think are important to make as well.
Well, that's brilliant, because there's at least 3 different threads I want to go down, but we can't do them all at once. I'm going to pick one of them that came out straight away. Something that Nicola said, and I know when we had a chat yesterday, you mentioned this, and
How did I?
It's one of these things that you said, you know, quality is everyone's responsibility. But do you think that there could be an issue with that? Because as soon as you say everyone is responsible, no one actually wants to own it, because everyone thinks that everyone else has to deal with it. So how do you get around that in your organization to make sure that quality, in whatever form you define it as, is actually cared about by everyone? Because that's the second part of this.
So when I have conversations with people about quality, and this is outside of work as well, so I speak to lots of people about testing and QA and all kinds of stuff around testing. I often say, you know, just think about the things you do every day for your project, for example, or I can think of people within my own workspace, and they don't even realize that they're doing something that's related to quality in their everyday jobs. You know, they may even be doing a type of testing and they don't realize that they're doing it. But just by the nature, say, for example, of a product owner, say, writing a user story or, you know, a feature ticket, that in itself has some kind of quality checks applied to it. And they don't realize that that's actually, you know, I'm not saying that our product owners don't realize, but, you know, they may not realize that what they're doing is actually a quality task, and that they need to make sure that the acceptance criteria on a ticket, for example, is ready for and fit for use, you know, that kind of thing. So it's the little things that people do as part of their work, maybe, you know, writing up requirements, you know, they don't realize that that is something in the quality space, and that, you know, there is a level of you know, quality that's been applied to that. So you can explain that to them, and it's like a light bulb goes on, and it's like, oh yeah, I am part of that process, and it is my responsibility too, because if missed, you know, and it gets into production, if that ever happens, you know, it reflects badly, not just on QA. I think in the old days when it was just, you know, people were doing waterfall projects, for example, the buck stopped with QA, or with the test team, I should say. And as we've moved into agile projects and ways of working, it's a shared responsibility. It's a team responsibility. It's maybe you know, a department or an organization responsibility. So people tend to point the finger less at QA now, I think, and see it more as especially for me, if something goes wrong at our place, it may be that it's looked at as a team problem as opposed to an individual like QA problem. And it's how can we fix it as a team, as opposed to how can QA tell us, you know, not have missed this and allowed this to go into production. So, you know, that kind of thing. So it's a long explanation, but you can give people examples as you work with them, and try to take them on the journey so that they understand what their input is to the quality process. And a lot of the time, people are really happy to be involved in that process. It's not seen as, oh my God, that's another job to do for me. You know, it's like, I'm really happy to be helping out. Let me know what I can do to help. And we honestly just let them know that what they do is beneficial.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's why I see like QA acting like a coach for the whole team as well. Like I can see the difference. Like I can even like help with the PRs and, you know, give more like, okay guys, but we can do that, or we forgot something, because it's normal, right? Like we should like always be reviewing these kind of things since the beginning, not like just in the end. So I try to like participate as much as possible, like since the beginning. So doing like Three Amigos, so from the creation of the, you know, the ticket, and also like the PRs from the developers, and also the opposite, so they can review my PRs. It's not like something that just the QA team is doing or just the developers are doing. So it's a share. I can see that, you know, it's a really share responsibility. It's not like only me, but for this, I think, yeah, QA is moving, and I think people are more like, especially people have like specialist in the team, a QA specialist, and or like a coach to help with the whole process, the delivery process in general. But
so you're saying that there's a role for people involved in testing to coach others.
Yeah.
To think about quality and how their work contributes to the overall quality of a deliverable.
In general, yeah. This is how I have seen like in the past companies that I have worked in the projects as well.
Yeah, also, I think in addition, we also look at maximizing productivity, like rework, having code which has to be reused rather than have rewriting code all the time. Make it more reusable. It's just make the process better, continuously improving, whether we're using Scrum or Kanban or whatever the process is being used, maximize it so that the best is achieved at the end of it. It's not just about customer viewpoint, it's also about how can we build quality internally within our processes.
Oh, sorry, Marie, go on.
Oh, sorry. I just agree on what Seema said, because I like to think of it as it's not just about in testing or in test automation where you can improve the quality, because it's about like other processes as well. So as an example, we used to have this manual release process where we have to fill in a form. And it's not just one form, it's 2 different forms, and then we have to make a request to an external release management team. However, now we actually improve the process, so it's now all automated. Everything is done via just one click of a button, and then after you press that, all the forms are filled in automatically based on a config file that you set. So that's not necessarily about testing, because it's about like releasing, but then you can apply quality in that, because it's improved the experience of other teams, that they can own the release process as well, because they don't have to rely to someone to do the job on behalf of them. So I think it's all about the other processes as well.
Yeah, sorry if I said it in any other way. I didn't mean test team only. I meant the processes throughout. It can be the overall team. It can be the QA team. It can be the overall process that we go where it's about maximizing and making the process that works for everyone, not just for the QA team. So it's for everyone.
Yeah, it's funny you saying that, because I had a discussion with one of the guys that I used to work, and he said to me there was focusing too much on process, but this was because it was like a mess. And then I was trying to organize things. I said, we are missing some things, like nobody has like vision or plan of what we are delivering or how we are delivering. So sometimes we need to actually, like a coach on quality, trying to improve the quality of the process as well. And it's funny, but I had this discussion like I think 1 month ago or even less, and was quite weird, because I thought we are trying to improve things. It doesn't matter if I'm trying to focus too much on process or not, but I can see that this is not working, and it's a shared feeling. So
not process for the sake of process. It's
exactly
where it's absolutely needed. That makes everyone's life a bit easier and makes it better for releasing, for whatever we're doing. So it's not for the sake of it. It's more for
I agree.
For the better.
It's interesting when you look at process as well as the product. So by improving your process, you improve the product.
Yeah.
I guess we still come back to the whole concept of quality means different things to different people, because some of the words you guys have been using, and you said that's perception. At least 2 or 3 people said it's perception, it's subjective, it's relative to the individual, it's relative to the time. So with all of that, you can apply some quality to like process, I guess, because you've got an idea of what good might look like. But how do we measure quality when it's so hard to find? So if you've got a product that's going to be used by N number of people out there, and every single one of them is going to view quality differently, that just makes our jobs as test professionals so difficult. So I think any ideas that you have about how you can try and measure that would be really good to look around.
We have, for example, a few different metrics. One metric is like, because we have 2 mobile apps, one metric that we want to focus quality on is the app ratings. So it's a very tough one, of course. Like, what's a good rating? Of course, 5 is a great rating. But we really believe that we can like maintain the 4.9 we have now on both platforms. And basically we kind of learn from it. Of course, it wasn't 4.9 on the day it got launched. But we kind of, over time, we kind of learn what sort of issues really determine the users to leave a bad review. So now that's a bit of, so our metric is to keep the 4.9 star review, but then underneath, in order to do that, we have a few items that's like, absolutely the app shouldn't do this or that. And some are like, of course, obvious, you should be able to log in, not to crash, but some of them might look for someone else very much like, why is this even a metric? But it is important for some users. For example, the music during the workout or something like that, where it's like, you know, very hard as well to capture. And then we have metrics that we pretty much set to ourselves, like the number of issues we find per release. So, you know, if to aim not to find any P1 in any releases, things like that. And if we do find, which it happens quite rarely, but if we do, then we go back and say, why did this happen? And then we go back to defining what qualities and who kind of, we do believe that everyone is responsible for it, but everyone is responsible for it at like different stages or in different parts. And I think it is here, they are quite clear, like what is everyone's responsibility in the quality. So we go back to like assess what, if we can improve anything.
I think for us at OpenSignal, it's more about credibility of what we produce, about the insights and analysis that is produced. Is it credible enough? That's the absolute important quality measure that we look at. There are smaller bugs and there's always going to be bugs that we may not catch, but as far as it doesn't affect the credibility, then I think we're okay with it. But I don't think we can put a number on it as I've achieved 100% quality or I've achieved so. I don't think we can measure that. At least that's what I think. One of the time when I was interviewing, one candidate told me, I've always achieved 100% quality. And it was an interesting conversation to understand, what do you mean by 100% quality? And she said, there are requirements. I write test cases. Those test cases get approved by project manager. And as far as those test cases pass, and that doesn't become production bugs, I've achieved quality. Any other bugs that come out which are not covered by those test cases, because they were not approved by the product manager, are not bugs. That's not considered as quality. That was very surprising for me to hear.
Can I ask if you get the job?
No.
I wish it was like that.
But
I just follow the scripts.
Opened our eyes. Yeah, I just opened our eyes. We were like, where is this coming from?
That's a kind of strange thing to say, isn't it? Because you're thinking, well, what about the exploratory testing and everything else? And we could go into many rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So quality is just for that person, just going through and saying, well, I picked up some test cases, they were approved, they ran, job done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for us to look at customer feedback, I don't know if anyone else does, but we have sort of customer feedback that comes to our product owners, and then that gets shared with the teams. So we can see whether there's anything that we need to address based on the real customer feedback. but we also look at things like, well, how many defects have we raised in production? How many have been found that we didn't find beforehand? Why is that? And we do some root cause analysis on it. Because again, I think every company takes quality seriously, but there's all sorts of different ways of measuring things, aren't there?
Yeah, I used to have defect leakage. I know that this is just one point that you can measure, but yeah, it was the amount of bugs that we can find like after we deploy. But yeah, this is a good idea. Yeah, having like the review from the customers, because it's impossible to like find everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's been a mindset shift as well. I think in the olden days, in the traditional waterfall kind of methodology, as QA was a traditional siloed type department and role, oftentimes we were looking at, okay, where are the most buggiest parts of the application, and let's make sure we test those and find all the bugs there. And I think as time has gone on, we've kind of moved into this more exploratory type world. And now, because we're dealing with a perception of quality, it becomes about not necessarily the buggiest part of the application, but more about the customer's perception and what areas of the application do they feel are the worst. So you could have the most bugs in area X of an application, but if the customer is not noticing it, then you can almost take your time as an organization to go ahead and fix those behind the scenes without anybody really noticing. But what you really want to address are the areas of the application that are most visible and most exposed to the customers that they are reporting issues on. So I think there's been a mindset shift. And one way that we track that at Housey is we're looking at what we call escape defects. So those are defects that have slipped through the cracks, and we're tracking those. And we kind of prioritize those, and we make sure that we address the highest priorities from the customer side first before we deal with any other areas of the application that may or may not be buggy.
That's an interesting point, actually, that you can have defects that are in areas that one person might think, actually, that's a high priority defect, but actually if no one is really going to notice it, then it can be put to one side. So it brings me on to another point I wanted to bring up and sort of discuss is, you know, do we always have to be aiming for what we call as good quality? So what I mean by that is, can something be of, I guess, lesser quality but still good enough? You hear the term MVP. Do we always have to be striving for everything being 100%? Can we compromise? What are your thoughts?
I kind of started the QA job thinking it absolutely has to be great in order to deliver this. So I was having a bit of issues if someone was pushing for like, oh no, it's fine, let's just release it. I'm like, no, like this test still not passing. It's important. Probably it was to me personally. But then, yeah, going further, and I keep referring to the current company because I think here is where I saw the most of this idea that it's okay for something to be good enough for various reasons. Like sometimes we were spending so much time trying to define what is what we call perfect product, great product, and then we deliver it and the users don't think the same thing. They want it differently, or they think, yeah, this is not actually delivering to their needs. So we kind of switched the approach to deliver something that works, and then get the feedback and then iterate over that, and then like product users really love. And then we do try to deliver it from the beginning as good as we try by like doing user interviews and trying to get their feedback from them before we release something. But we did learn to release something is very important, and then work with the users' feedback, users' issues. Like it was said before, maybe users, they look more into one area that you didn't think is that important, or the other way around. So kind of release and then learn together with the users and just make it better. But at the end, what you thought at the beginning might be the great product, might not be what actually gets released. In the end, it will be probably but quite different product, but it might be just what the users want.
I think it's about managing risk, so and managing the expectations. So if there is an MVP and you can, deliver to that MVP in terms of quality as well, then you've achieved what you're supposed to achieve. But if you can achieve more, then that's great too. But it really depends on the way that you're delivering your work or your projects as to whether or not you can do more than MVP anyway. But yeah, I think it's really you should be able to deliver to MVP. But if you can deliver more, I think that's always the goal, isn't it? To try and achieve more. But it's all about managing risk, because if you try to deliver more than the MVP and then it doesn't work out, then that's equally as bad as not delivering what you've said you would as minimum viable product as well. There's a balance to be struck, because we as QA could test probably forever and still find lots of bugs, or still find potential issues, and there's got to be a point where we agree with product teams, or whatever your process is, we agree this is where we'll stop, as long as we're happy that we've got everything ready and we're doing it to time and budget, then that's what we should be delivering. Yeah,
I think that example that Seema gave earlier of that person she was interviewing that said she has 100% quality, they kind of solved the puzzle, didn't they? They had one person making the decision on what's good enough, and then they just went with that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really old school type of approach, actually, Seema. It seemed as if they were doing something like waterfall, where you used to have like the breakdown of roles of tests. So you didn't just have a tester, you'd have a test analyst, etc., within a team, and it was a tester's role to just test, just to run those tests, and if they passed, that was good enough, that kind of thing. It seems like it was a very old-fashioned approach, and certainly not something where they, put any thought into it themselves, given any feedback, or made any suggestions around what the quality should be. They've just, agreed with it because that's what's been signed off. That's not good.
Yeah, it's not good at all. Following on from what you were saying about, I think the product maturity also where the product is at that point depends, also suggests what the quality should be like for an MVP, like Oana said, or if it's a starting project, we do deliver to customers. I don't think we test absolutely the whole range, but customers are open to it because they know it's the MVP. They know that more work is going to go into it, and they understand that, and they're open to suggestions, and we are open to suggestions and to make changes as and when we are developing it. But on a more mature product, which is already in the market, which is already being used by customers, that we cannot risk not identifying or releasing bugs. That I think we should at least it should be stable quality. It should remain what it was with changes coming, or should get better, but it can't slide backwards.
So it's around setting expectations, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you say somebody, I think it's like with Microsoft, they're going to release a beta version of something. Well, it's not going to be 100% working, but then you accept it based on the fact that I may find some issues. So you go in with a mind that, okay, it's not going to be the level of quality I might expect, lower my expectations. Whereas quite rightly, if you say there's a product that's already out there, then it shouldn't get any worse, it should get better. I think there was an interesting blog I was reading, I think it might have been Louise Gibbs, who said about return on investment as well. So, and Nicola, taking your point, we could test forever and we could be trying to get to market, but at the same time, the competitors get into market. And you might try and keep testing to achieve more quality, but if you're second, there's no prize for that. So again,
and I've worked on a project like that. I've worked on a project just like that. They completely missed I won't name the company, they absolutely missed the ball because they just continued to develop and develop and develop, trying to make this thing perfect. And really, they should have just released it. But I think they didn't have confidence within themselves that they were the type of company that could do that. The Microsofts of the world can get away with doing stuff like that, but people still expect there's a level of quality that they'll get with the product that they wouldn't absolutely get something that was absolutely going to fall apart when they started to use it. So they can accept that from a company like Microsoft or a bigger company, you know, along those lines. But from a small startup company, they can't really accept that because they don't know the brand and they don't necessarily know the product very well. So they think they need to achieve more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, Disney Plus, that they were rushing to deliver. Like, I know that a lot of people, they were complaining because the service was not that great, but they were trying to go to the market exactly because there were like Netflix already and Amazon Prime, so they were quite behind and they are just losing money. So in the end of the day, they just want to release, even like with the minority like complaining, and you know, the minimum is doing the job and that's it. And yeah, it's a risk that you need to take, but it's better than, you know, going and not releasing in the time and just keeping losing.
And with a company like Disney Plus, they've got the Disney brand name behind them. They've got to be really careful. It's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. I think they improve it now. I tested other day. You have like 7 days free, so it's quite good now.
It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
My thoughts on it, quite frankly.
It's interesting looking at, just flipping that on its head a little bit. I know we're talking about Microsoft and how they oftentimes they'll put out something and see how it sticks. But then you have the flip side, and I'm going to use Apple as an example here, where it almost feels like they do. I don't want to make any assumptions here, but maybe they do a lot of testing behind the scenes, because when their products come out, they're of the ultimate caliber, and you'll have people literally sitting and waiting until they release something. So there's the flip side to that, where you have one company that's kind of setting expectations. You have this other company that works rigorously behind the scenes to get it to that top-notch quality as well. So it's interesting to look at the dynamics there and how, you know, there's two kind of polar opposites that are competing with each other, and they have different approaches.
But Apple have kind of set the bar now, haven't they? They've set the bar, so now they are, if they know it's all eyes on them when they release maybe you know, a new build, or they release a new product, if you wanted a tangible product. You know, I personally won't buy, not just because it's Apple, but I won't buy something like an Apple product as soon as it comes out onto market, just because the software tester in me says, let's just wait a few versions and see what bugs come out of it, you know. But I have that mindset.
Who else does that?
Part of me that says, I do it. But especially for Apple products.
But do you do that for Microsoft products too?
Especially for Apple, I think that they have got an issue. Sorry.
It's interesting because you're saying quite rightly, you know, Apple have got this kind of benchmark that everything they deliver is going to be of a certain quality, whereas Microsoft will deliver something, you might find some issues. So I think Microsoft could probably change theirs, but how hard would it be for Apple to actually say, we're going to try the Microsoft way? Because it's all about perception, and it goes back to exactly what we were talking about earlier. Quality is people's perceptions of a brand. And I imagine I used car analogies only because I really like cars. I don't have a Mercedes, I'd like to, but I put a Mercedes up against a car that I couldn't even tell you what it was, and I said, well, which one looks better quality? Well, you can imagine if Mercedes put out a car where when you slammed the door it rattled or bits of the dashboard fell off. And because what you perceive as quality is what you've always got from that particular brand. So I don't think Apple could potentially change how they deliver things now. They've almost got themselves into a corner.
It sounds like they're competing with themselves rather than trying to compete with Microsoft.
Yeah, it'll affect their brand drastically.
Brand trust, it's a really important thing. And so that's another point. And quality could be about maintaining your brand and the trust that people have in that brand. Yeah. Okay.
They lost me.
We were talking about different brands and things, and I'm just conscious of time. We've probably got another 5-10 minutes, but I thought it'd be quite interesting just to ask you what your worst experience in terms of quality is. It doesn't have to be software, but just anything that you thought is really, really poor quality that you've had in your life, and maybe how that shaped how you do your job.
I wouldn't say poor quality, but something that really shaped about how I think while I'm testing is quite early in my career, while I was in social care sector, and we were developing a product for children and adult safety for children who were at risk. All requirements were tested, test case coverage, name it, all metrics really good. Bugs were being fixed, tested, retested, everything happening. We were closer to a release, and we thought we've done well. One of the days just before the release, on TV, there was, in the news came up a child at risk, which went really bad. And the reason for that was information wasn't passed on between agencies. And whatever the information did pass on, it wasn't flagged as this child is at risk. And that loss of information is what caused that incident. We were building a product that was solving that problem, which is passing information between agencies. But we didn't have the flagging of risk. The genograms didn't have any flagging of families at risk. That was completely missing. And that just, we realized it's not just about requirements and testing, have we done it right? Yeah, it's about, does it actually meet what it needs to solve? And I think that awareness that day was really important for me, and I've always gone back to, it's not just requirements, does it matter what we're doing, does it solve what we are trying to solve?
That's a great example, actually, Seema. It must be a horrible thing to have kind of gone through, because you don't want to look back and go, we've had that impact, but you've taken something from it to impact how you do your work and influence other people to think about the bigger picture, not just the little individual stories.
Yeah. And it affects people, so that really mattered at that point.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Has anyone else got any stories of anything that they've come across as really bad quality? It could be you've gone on holiday where it just was awful. I mean, it doesn't have to be software. We want to hear your bad quality stories.
I think I said the iPhone one that now I just don't buy anymore. But also is related, for me, it's quite related to, price and how much I pay for things. So yeah, expectations. So yeah, I think I just said the example with the iPhone one, but.
So you've never touched one since? You had a bad experience?
Really bad experience.
Okay.
Was really slow. I couldn't do anything. And one thing that really frustrates me is I'm trying to do things and it's really slow and it's slowing me down as well because I cannot do anything. So yeah, it was really bad. But I still buy their laptops. It's just the iPhone that I don't buy anymore.
So it affected your trust in the brand, going back to something that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you won't trust them again. Are you thinking?
I might.
Yeah.
I might. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Maybe in the future I might try again. It's just because it's the same price, from another Android, really with really good quality and good camera and everything. So I kind of measured everything before I switch and just buy the Android instead of iPhone. So, but I might try again in the future. Who knows?
Which is really weird because I won't use Android at all. I will not buy a phone with Android. I won't touch Android at all. I had a year and a half of it and said never again. I will never buy a phone that uses Android, and went straight back to iPhone. And although I won't run out and buy the newest one, because like you say, the cost is just crazy, I keep the phones for a long time and they do the job that they're supposed to do. I wish I had a little bit of a better camera on them, but you know, I can live with that. But I won't buy an Android phone, and there's no amount of money that would make me do it. No way.
I think it depends. It's just because Android is a bit hard to, you know, cover all the phones that can support Android, and for iPhone is easier, right? So maybe for the yeah. So, but I'm having a really good experience now. But yeah, it's
interesting. You've got the polar opposites. So, Nicola, what did you just have a bad experience of it?
I think I just bought a really lousy phone. I think I bought a really lousy phone, thinking that I could save money, because I kept thinking, you know, iPhone and Apple are just trying to take over the market, and they're not allowing, you know, Android to have its day. And I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to buy another Apple. I'm going to go for Android. And it was the worst mistake as far as I'm concerned. Everyone else disagrees with me. Everybody, you know, I don't care. I just needed a little time away from it, and then I realized what I was missing, and I went back.
Yeah, I might go back as well. Let's see.
Yeah, see, look, what I mean.
Convincing me.
But there's something about the whole aesthetic and the brand, and just that to me screams quality. So therefore, I can't possibly find that with anything else. So I'm, you know, it's like you'll find Mac users that won't touch Windows machine. They won't touch it. You know, they just, it's something about the quality of it. You know, they've got something. There's something about it. I can't really describe it. I don't know if anyone else has got any thoughts.
It's like Sufyan's example of what he felt, what quality was in his first example, that the feeling of belongingness.
Yeah.
Does it feel right?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel right, then it feels bad quality.
Yeah. I mean, it might look right, but it doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And what we've got here is a classic example of two people having polar opposite views of what quality is. And when we come back to the original question, how do we test something when you've got those polar opposites? Because if we say we were delivering something now on Android and on the iPhone, we'd have Nicola saying, this sucks on Android, and Rafaela going, but this is horrible on iPhone. What would we do?
I think it's important to build like an experiment sort of culture, because you don't know what your users are going to want. So for example, nowadays you can do things like A/B testing or run live experiments on production and see which one appeals more to customers. So if organizations can do that, then I think it's, you know, it's much better, because at least you know what your customer wants by giving them like different variations of like a feature, for example.
Yeah, I did a poll at work and I got a couple of comments came through today, and somebody said they're looking at defining user requirements and thinking, you know, with what they call quality expectations and acceptance criteria, and essentially, what does good look like to you, and what will you be happy with? We've not talked about the concept of happiness other than unhappiness, which we discussed, but actually quality can be about somebody just being happy with what they've got, even if it's not perfect. So it's, again, it goes back to being really, really subjective.
Yeah.
So I think we could talk for an hour a week for a year and we would still never crack what quality really is. But I'm going to ask Billy if he'd be kind enough to do a bit of a summary, because I know he's been taking some notes for us, but just perhaps to summarize what we've managed to come up with in our 1 hour chat, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing, the thing that I'm going to take away from this, so of course as a recruiter, I speak to people like yourselves day in and day out, but something I've been exposed to the sort of quality coach role, for example, and the importance of that. But I think the key takeaway for me is I always thought of testing or quality engineering as solely that, engineering and focusing on software. And I really like the idea of, you know, we can challenge processes, we can challenge different things within the business in order to achieve maximum quality all rounds. But also, quality is hard to define, as we've seen, and we could certainly talk about this for hours, and we have many discussions about it. And you have to think about it from different contexts. So maybe you think about competition, or maybe you think about how quickly do we need to release this, and also thinking when are we done? When does the testing stop, essentially? So yeah, I've made a lot of notes. I think I've nearly hit 2,000 words, so there's a lot of talking, which has been great. But it shows that, you know, quality is important, but we need to think quality is we, you know, maximize the level of quality to this person over here, but how do we do it to the next person and the one after that? So yeah, you can perceive it in many different ways, what I've taken from it.
Well, thanks for organising this, Billy. Thanks for taking notes. And I think it's good that you can take something from it that will help you in your role as a recruiter. Certainly you could take Seema's question about quality and weed out a few candidates that way. That I'm going to remember that.
Yeah, it stayed with me for years now.
It's going to stick with me as well. Well, I'd just like to say thanks to each and every one of you for giving up your time this evening and for sharing lots of interesting stories. I think if we feel like it in a few months, maybe we can get back together and do something else. It'd be really good to have a follow-up and see what we've learned and where we can take it from there. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks, Steve, for facilitating.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.